Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Stigma Stompers, NAMI of Erie County, PA's one and only podcast. I am one of your hosts, Abby.
And I'm the other host, Heather.
We are joined today with a very special guest from Girard School District, David Koma. I'm going to just let him introduce himself so we can get right into the episode.
Thank you for having me. My name is David Koma. I am the Superintendent of Schools for Girard School District in my third year.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we'll get started off. So you've lived in Girard for over 20 years. You've raised your kids there, and now you pretty much run the entire school district. So what keeps you there? What keeps you in Girard?
Well, let's talk about what brought me to Girard. My
Okay.
wife and I both attended Slippery Rock University and were dual education majors, elementary and special education. She's actually from Lake City, which is a borough that is part of Girard School District. So she was fortunate, was able to secure a job in Girard School District. We chose to be close to a set of parents, so that's where we called home.
Awesome.
We had 4 kids. All 4 kids have gone through the school system in Girard School District. One is out, successfully employed with her own home, married. 2 are in college, and our son is in 10th grade. But Girard has just become my second home from my hometown, and I've grown very fond of it. And after being a teacher there, an administrator for about 20 years, I now have a bigger role as the superintendent, and that's exciting for me because I have more influence. I don't want to necessarily say control over the future direction that we're headed out in Girard. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Don't kill me. I'm going to ask you an off-script question.
Are you
But
allowed to say control on the podcast?
don't sue me.
It's okay. I don't mind.
Okay. What is your favorite part of being superintendent of Girard?
That's a great question. I got to pick one thing.
Yeah.
I would say my favorite part of being superintendent compared to teaching and or being a principal to middle school is the flexibility and versatility I have in my role to engage at all levels across 3 schools with all the various groups of employees, with different support staffs. Like, you have your hand in everything and you get to know everybody. So whereas before I was confined to a specific building, it's pretty exciting to see how the entire operation functions and who contributes to that effort for the success of our kids.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Jumping into mental health specific questions. For you, when you hear the phrase mental health, what does that mean to you personally?
Mental health to me, it refers to how somebody's doing inside as it relates to their emotions, psychologically, socially, and how it kind of impacts them with how they think, how they feel, how they act, how they cope, how they connect with other people. It's about things like how well people manage stress and change, whether or not they feel supported or isolated, whether they process emotions well or not well, such as grief, anger, joy, anxiety. That's a big one.
That's a big one.
How resilient people are when they feel like life gets hard. I think that's, really taken a downturn since
Yeah.
the change, which
Yes.
we'll talk about later, I'm sure. And ultimately, whether or not you're able to function, find purpose, and maintain relationships with other people. I think that you can be mentally healthy and still struggle, right? You can have a diagnosis and you can still have a meaningful and productive life. I do believe everybody has mental health, just like everybody has physical health, but it's something you have to attend to and take care of. And ultimately, mental health is about well-being, balance, and the ability to keep going, even when things aren't easy. And things are not often easy.
Yeah.
No, hardly ever.
You summed that up very well.
Yeah, it's a complex idea, and it was a complex answer, so that was perfect. Thank you very much.
So over your description of mental health, I'm sure, like, if I would have asked you that maybe 30 years ago, you probably wouldn't have had the exact same answer. How has your thought process on mental health kind of changed over time? And was it something that people talked about back when you were younger?
Back when I was younger, that's a long time ago. I was born in 1972. So by the time we were hitting the 80s, I was enrolled in school, but I was a kid.
Yeah.
I wasn't a teacher. I wasn't a principal. I wasn't a superintendent.
Yeah.
So I had to cheat a little bit on this one, right? I didn't have the awareness back then. Certainly could speculate and probably be accurate that mental health was not nearly as prominent as it is today. I think back then when I was in school, it was pretty connected to special education and discipline at the time. I think it was pretty much reactive in a response to serious behavior or academic concerns. I think emotional struggles were often referred to as behavior issue, lack of motivation, or a home problem.
Yeah.
And I think there was very little to no instruction around coping skills, emotional regulation, and stress management.
Yeah.
Now, present day, that's entirely different. I think mental health is no longer seen as a problem to fix. It's clear to me in my new role and as a principal for several years that schools now recognize, how mental health can impact and affect and influence not only attendance, but behavior, achievement, and also school safety.
Absolutely.
And the final point I want to make is that, it's out there now. Everybody's talking about it. I feel like people are educated, and therefore there's a lot more collaboration among educators, counselors, families, and outside providers. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Do you remember at what point in either your career or your life that it clicked for you that mental health was, I don't know a better term than real, but real and important?
I did some reflecting on this one and some research. And they say around 2010 is kind of when that change took place. In my mind, it was 15, 20 years ago, so it's kind of aligned with that. And I think that's the point, whereas, that old school thought, process, belief, and how they approached it changed entirely, and it now became important enough to be considered foundational to school environments, kids learning, as opposed to being secondary to it. Schools now focus on educating the whole child. They worry about academics, social, emotional, behavioral. SEL, we've been integrating, incorporating, applying SEL curriculums for years, and that's mainstream now. And schools have clearly increased mental health supports.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There was a instance where you presented on to school nurses about mental health. Do you want to share about what you learned there? Because I feel like it ties into the overall school approach regarding mental health.
Sure. Yeah, when I talked to the school nurses, it was right a few years after the pandemic. And I wanted to kind of get some feedback from them about how the pandemic has just kind of changed as far as their mental health, because that's a lot. It's a trauma. We all went through a trauma, so you would expect a little bit of kind of PTSD from going through that. And they were saying that there were at least 3 times as many kids going to the nurse's office with what they would say is stomach aches or headaches. But then once they started kind of, investigating, it ended up a lot of it was anxiety, because a lot of times it shows up in those physical type of ways. So yeah, they were saying that it's definitely increased quite a bit. And it's good in one way that since the pandemic, we're talking about it more, but unfortunately a lot more people, I think, are struggling quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yep. All right, question for you. If social media existed when you were a teenager, think that would be better or worse?
If it had existed when I was a teen,
Yeah.
would it be better or worse for me personally, for
Yeah.
who I am?
Yeah.
I think it would absolutely be worse.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the primary biggest changes and challenges that our kids face today. And it's not just social media in the sense that, they have access to anything. It's the screen time. It's the amount of time they put in it. It's the ability to hide behind a screen, have a fictitious account, be the aggressor, be the bully, be
Yeah.
anonymous, be the victim, and deal with all those emotions and how you're being put on public display for everybody and humiliated. It is a lot. And in addition to that, with the actual phones, it creates their inability to have time to do more important things,
Right.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, we were out till dark, until either the dinner bell rang and you got called home, and at which point you went back out when you were done. And then when the streetlights came on, you knew it was time to get back home.
Yeah.
I mean, you did everything with your friends, from riding bikes to hiking in the woods to kicking the can, and we were just active and we were engaged. And I think social media has taken that away from our kids because they prioritize that as a need. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of fixation on that. And I think from a parent's point of view, and I'm as guilty as anyone, when you have young
Yeah.
kids, it's an easy babysitting service. But unfortunately, by utilizing that even in your home, because you want to mop the floors or you want to cook supper, you're teaching the kids, like, that's their crutch.
their,
This will
like,
occupy your time, and
yeah.
you'll be content.
Yeah.
And I think that's created a lot of problems for our students.
One thing I find interesting is, so I go to a lot of schools around our community and do like the teen mental health first aid class. And one of the questions I ask them, I have them all stand up and say, if you think social media is more positive, I want you to go to the left side of the room. If you think it's more negative, to the right. And if you think it's somewhere in the middle. I have yet, in the 3 years I've been doing it, had anybody go to the positive side.
No kidding.
Wow.
Nobody
Not
at
shocking.
all. And it's a shame, because we realize, it's not even something that they necessarily want, but they really don't have a choice. They wouldn't be able to communicate very well. It's kind of just, in their daily activities. But a lot of them really do struggle. And they're open about talking about how much they're struggling with it as well.
Yeah.
But that just shocked me that nobody.
I have a question for you that's not on the paper. Don't be mad at me. In your opinion, as someone that works in education and has had multiple roles in education, do you find that there's any positives to social media at all? For kids, I guess.
Well, first and foremost, I am not well versed with social media. So if you're talking in the general sense outside of just having a phone in your hand, yeah, I think there's a lot of apps. I think there's a lot of tools. There's a lot of platforms. There's a lot of ways to be creative and productive. I'm not well versed in what every kid does on their phones. I am well versed in how phones impact their learning.
Yeah.
And their emotions and their anxiety and their overwhelm and their stress, because that feeds right into the schoolhouse, right? I think there's a place for it if it's used appropriately. We do allow teachers to direct kids to use their phones for instruction. I think it's a rarity because we're worried about all the peripheral outcomes and what they're going to do instead of what we're asking them to do, because we want to use something as an instructional tool. It just makes it more difficult. I think with the right oversight and compliance, there's value. In any technology, really.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Although moving into the future with AI, it might get a little bit more difficult. But so do you think, we're talking about how the kids, are really struggling. Do you think, though, that the kids are struggling more these days, or do you think it's more that we just see it because we see it on TV, we see it on social media, and back then nobody really talked about it? So do you think kids are struggling more?
Do I have to pick one over the other?
No, you can.
Because I think both are true.
Yeah.
I think both are accurate. Struggles are absolutely increasing, but kids are more willing to talk about those struggles. Anxiety and depression are real. You two know that probably better than anyone. You've already referenced the pandemic. Since the pandemic, there have been significant increases in mental health, special education identifications, and so on. But because of greater awareness and openness, students are more comfortable sharing what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a good thing. I think we've seen it even just in peer support. The more that one person talks about it, the more other people can talk about it, so that they can even get to a solution quicker or the help that they need quicker. So I'm glad that it's becoming more mainstream. I know that sometimes people think, well, they're talking about it so much so everyone thinks they have it because it's all they hear about. But I think the exact opposite. I think people are just more aware of it, so they know what to look for in themselves, so they're able to identify it more. And I think mental health challenges are just so much more common than anyone thinks. Like, everyone has some kind of anxiety, it doesn't have to be consistent and all the time, but everyone has felt anxious about something.
I had anxiety about coming here.
Exactly.
It's a fact.
It's
So
a very
it doesn't have to
common
be
thing.
like a consistent issue to where it would become a mental health challenge that you deal with constantly, but everyone has felt all of the emotions at some point. So
Agreed.
might as well make it a regular topic.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to kind of go back to when we met. And it was back in, I think, April. Ed Matson, who was also on this podcast previously, he is he's very passionate about raising awareness and really about getting into the schools and talking to, and training the teachers and training the staff. We ended up right away, as soon as we talked about it, I told you before, you were like the quickest one to be like, okay, let's get it scheduled.
We're all in.
And not only did you schedule it, but like when I send the invites out, those teachers had it back. He was very smooth with the whole process. We had 4 separate trainings for the teachers. So we had your training, the admin training, and then we also had the training for the teachers. What was it that that made you decide to take the youth mental health first aid for yourself?
Well, I've been fortunate through the span of my career in that I've been able to attend a couple of national conferences on being trauma informed. So personally, I felt like I was on the right path, but I certainly am no expert. Working in a school, seeing different generations of teachers and how they engage, how they respond, how they react, I found myself over the years as a principal trying to provide my own professional development to teachers on being trauma informed so that we could better support our kids. So, it was primarily based on my own experiences and observations and identifying, in moments that we could probably do better, right? And I think it's about wanting to help kids and support them and be successful. And I see this as another tool. And I wanted my people to have tools in addition to myself. And through the course, I think, what that basically provided to me and others, I'm certain, is, a better understanding of what kids might be experiencing beneath the surface in those moments. I think it equipped them to respond more calmly, more appropriately when a child is in distress. It definitely reduced fear about saying the wrong thing in the moment when somebody's, not regulated or escalated. And I know how to connect with kids and help them when it's needed. But most of all, it reminded me that you don't have to be a mental health professional to make a difference, right?
Absolutely.
Being informed, being attentive and compassionate at the right moment can matter more than we realize. And I took it because kids deserve adults who are prepared, not just well-intentioned, and because I wanted to be one of those adults.
And you were an excellent student in the class. You asked lots of great
Thank you,
questions.
Heather. I
And
appreciate
I'm not just saying that because you're here. I was very impressed with just the whole admin, the good questions that they asked, and really wanting to learn more about mental health. It was, a great experience.
Thank you.
And you would say it was important to make it a priority for your teachers and other administrators to take it as well.
Absolutely. And obviously, they're the ones on the front lines every day with all of our kids. So I think it's important for those adults who spend the most time with our students to be trained because they're often the first to notice when something's amiss. Waiting for a crisis and relying on a small group of specialists just isn't enough anymore. And I think by training everyone, I know I already gave some highlights on positives, but by getting everyone trained, what that basically provided to Girard School District was more eyes and ears so that we could address concerns earlier rather than later. It gave us a shared language. I think that's important. You referenced that earlier. It gave everybody greater confidence. I think there are fewer missed warning signs now because nobody's sitting around saying, well, I'll just let somebody else deal with that. Like, we have the tools in our toolbox. And I think it also sends a very important message to our kids that every adult in the building cares about your well-being, not just a few. But just as importantly, it supports staff. Educators can't be expected to respond to complex needs without preparation. And training reduces fear, uncertainty, and burnout by giving people clear, practical tools. And at the end of the day, I've already referenced this, but it wasn't about turning people into being therapists, right? It's educating them. It's informing them. It's giving them the tools so that they can interact and support our kids. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
And you said that it shows the kids that you care, but I would even go as far to say that it shows their parents that they are giving their kids away, well, not giving their kids away, but entrusting their kids with people for 8+ hours a day that they know can help them in any situation. So they have the education down, now they're getting the mental health down. It's really, really great for parents to know that their kids are in good hands.
I agree with you.
So I commend you for bringing us in.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yep. No, definitely. I'm going to go back a little bit. We're going to talk again about, I like to hear kind of the comparisons of like your experience growing up as well as the experiences now. And I just wanted to know, when you were growing up, how were like emotions and things handled in your household? Was it something you all talked about? Like you came home from school and your parents were like, how are you feeling today? Or was it more pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of mentality?
It would be the latter. I grew up in the 80s again. I graduated high school in 1990, so primarily the 80s. It's my belief that feelings were private at that time. I think some common phrases that you heard from parents and other adults were, you're fine, don't cry, shake it off. And ultimately, I think kids were expected to simply self-regulate. There wasn't a lot of conversation. There was none. Nor were there any supports being provided. How that compares to now, emotions are openly discussed. I mean, you're talking about entire staffs of school districts who are being trained in youth mental health, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Children are encouraged to label their feelings. We keep talking about the language, being mainstream and common, but, it is not uncommon to hear a kid use the word trigger, anxiety, boundaries. Those are good things because they're opening up. They trust us. They want to tell us about what's going on. And I think most of all, mental health now is framed as overall health, and it's not a weakness. It's not considered a weakness anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't believe that families didn't care in the 1980s, and now they do. I think the comparison boils down to, in the 1980s, we taught kids not to let their emotions get in the way.
That's
And
a good
now,
point.
present day, we teach them that their emotions matter.
Yeah. We graduated the same year, so I guess I've that
90.
same, the 80s,
There
I've
you
been
go.
through that, and it was very similar for me.
Is this accurate?
It's so accurate.
It's so accurate.
Even when I was in college, I remember I started having like panic attacks when I was in college. And I would call home and, say, I don't know what's going on. I'm having this anxiety. And my dad especially, but my parents, it wasn't even just the you're fine. It was, well, what are you doing wrong to feel like that? Are you not doing your work? Are you partying too much? There had to be like a specific
root
reason.
cause.
There
And
had
it's
to be
your
a root
fault.
cause, and it's my fault.
Yeah.
And so I can definitely relate to that kind of mentality. And then eventually now my parents, I can have those talks with them.
Right.
Still not maybe as deep as I'd have talks with Abby or something like that, but they're willing to kind of break out of their shell a little bit and talk about it more accepting. Yeah.
Beautiful. You mentioned the kids and kind of them talking about it more. So I want to talk about how we're in the process of scheduling teen mental health first aid with your students. What makes you want to bring it to your students, and what are you hoping they gain from it?
Same reasons why I wanted to train my staff. It's really to educate and raise awareness. And I'm certain that through their training, it'll give them tools and the confidence and the independence and, the trust to understand that we cared enough to get trained, and we are trained, and we're available, we're accessible, we're here to support you. I just hope it continues to expand the conversation in the support system for our kids by raising awareness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to kind of talk about your leadership role. So you're in a leadership role, and it doesn't always leave a lot of room for vulnerability. A lot of times we have to have that kind of stay, How do you balance being professional with being human in that leadership role?
Well, I believe that being professional and being human aren't opposites. The real work of leadership is knowing when to lead by my title and when to lead with the person. However, regardless of whether I'm superintendent or I'm just David, I think there are a variety of qualities that apply to both categories as it relates to that. And I'll just quickly touch upon those. And if you would like me to expand on any, I'd be happy to do so.
Okay.
But for the sake of time, I'll just give you the highlights. I think it's important in both roles to be honest. It's important to be empathetic, but you also need to be decisive. You need to be clear when you make those decisions. It's important to remain calm, even under pressure, and there's a lot of pressure in this role. A giant one that it's taken me years to learn, but I'm a master at it now, is you have to own your mistakes. But you got to do it publicly. More importantly, you need to fix them responsibly. I find myself doing that more often than I like, but it's important. It's very important. I think it's important to keep boundaries visible and healthy. It's important to remember my influence. And here's the tricky part, right? Because people don't always know when you're wearing the title versus not. Right. So I have to realize and be forever aware that my tone, my words, my presence kind of set the emotional temperature for really any situation I'm in. And I need to use that influence carefully and compassionately. In a nutshell, people don't need leaders who are flawless, and I'm certainly not. They need leaders who are steady, honest, and grounded, who can hold complexity without passing it down to chaos. So that's what I attempt to do. I'm not good at it. Well, I'm not perfect at it. Let's say that.
I get a lot of good feedback.
But those are my priorities, and that's how I attempt to balance it.
That's awesome.
Kind of going off of that and your sort of principles for how you like to lead, do you think it helps both staff and students to have a leader admit when they don't have the answers all the time?
Absolutely, and without question. And you want to know why?
Yeah.
I have reasons for that as well.
Okay.
We're ready for
Let's
them.
hear 'em.
Well, first and foremost, I think it helps more than people realize. And I do have a hit list.
All right.
Are you ready, Heather?
I'm ready. Yeah.
So these are the reasons why it's important for staff and students to observe and experience leaders admitting when they don't have all the answers. I just want to make sure I got that correct.
Yeah.
First of all, I think it models humility and authenticity, because others see that it's okay not to be perfect, and you don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. And I think it also reduces the fear of making mistakes and encourages problem solving, collaboration, and learning. Secondly, it builds trust. People trust others, especially leaders who are honest and transparent. And that transparency word has been in my vocabulary since I've taken the job. And whether I'm communicating with the parents, the community, the school board, I often remind them, I am being transparent with you. These are the facts. I think that's very important. Third, it encourages problem solving together because staff and students feel empowered to contribute rather than wait for direction. 4, it reduces stress and unrealistic expectations because showing that not knowing is okay, right? And it normalizes learning and growth in others. And the last one I have before my wrap up is I think it strengthens resilience and adaptability because students see that challenges don't require perfection to overcome, and staff see that collaborative problem solving is part of a healthy workplace. And ultimately, that all boils down to say the following. I mean, leaders who can say, I don't know, but we'll figure it out together, create a culture of trust, growth, and psychological safety. And I think that alone can improve the morale of your organization, the engagement of your people, and the mental wellness for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah. Most definitely.
Agree with all of it.
Yes. All right. Was there ever a moment in your career where you thought, wow, they really didn't prepare me for this?
Every day. Every day. I'm not kidding you. I mean, do you ever feel
That's
that
transparent. I definitely.
way? I mean, it didn't matter if it was my first year out of
Parenting and-
college, teaching in my first placement, or my 10th year as a principal, or my 3rd year as a superintendent. I mean, I guess I constantly feel that way because I don't have all the answers. And there's always something around the next corner that is a challenge. But, you know, the positive in all that is the acknowledgement, right, the awareness, but more importantly, that I'm surrounded by great people, from central office administrators to support staff to my everybody in our district. I mean, we're one big happy family, and I know I can rely on them when I don't have all the answers, and I need help. And there's always a solution. There's always an answer, and sometimes it takes time and effort and collaboration and some growing pains, but we always find it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely not prepared, almost daily. Always
totally
learning.
relate.
That's good. We're lifelong learners.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. When it comes to healthy leadership and tying it back to mental wellness, what does that look like? How do you approach it from a leader standpoint?
I have lots of lists today. I like my lists.
We like the list
I'm a
too. That
numbers
keeps
guy.
things
I'm
just
a bulleted guy. It's all fun. So first and foremost, I think it's imperative that you lead by example, right? You got to lead how you want others to follow.
Exactly.
I think it's absolutely important to create a safe work environment. Safe in the sense of, like, psychologically. Do you feel safe enough around here to open up, to ask for help, to tell us when there's a problem? This was a big one, and one of my assistant principals helped me with this over many years, being a great listener. And not only just being a great listener, but kind of reflecting and letting that digest before you make a decision or react. I think it's important to set realistic expectations and protect boundaries. Boundaries in the sense of, I need to be accessible and available, but not endlessly. You know, for myself, I got to worry about time and energy and staffing and, you know, taking all the variables to make the best decision we can ahead of us. Providing help and resources for our people as it relates, like mental health days. We always integrate in our opening in-service days and in-service days throughout the year components of wellness for our staff, and it's in our comprehensive plan. So that's important to us. I think it's important to lead with clarity and to be consistent. And all that to say, the bottom line is, you know, what we're trying to convey to all people in our organization, our family, is you matter as a person here, and we will take care of the work in any way that takes care of our people.
And I can say as a parent, that's exactly what I would want to hear from, you know, really. I wish my kids didn't go to Girard, but that's exactly, like, that's, true leadership. Yep. All right. What would you want parents to know about supporting their kids' mental health? Because I'm sure you deal with parents a lot. And if you could tell them anything in a very...
Well, you don't want me to tell them anything. I think in a general sense, I would want to convey the following things to parents. Is that fair?
That's fair. Bullet point A. I love it.
I think especially in today's world, because, you know, parents are, I don't want to be hasty in my generalization, but many are protective, right? I mean, you've heard the reference or you know, the phrase helicopter parent.
Yeah.
Like, they're trying to solve all their kids' problems. They're trying to have their nose in every little detail. And I'm not saying all parents are like that, but I've seen that increase over the past 20 years in what I do. So my message to parents is, you don't have to be perfect to support your child's mental health. You just have to be present, consistent, and willing to learn alongside them. And probably more importantly, your child doesn't need you to fix everything. Quit trying to fix everything. What they need is to know that they're loved, they're safe, and they're not facing big feelings alone. It's really that simple.
Yeah. Yep. No, definitely. I could be guilty of being a helicopter parent. I'm getting better, but it is a challenge because, it's a challenge.
In regards to teachers and educators, not even just at Girard, but maybe just in general to any that may be watching, what would you say to an educator who might be feeling overwhelmed for any number of reasons?
I would say what you're feeling makes absolute sense in today's day and age. The work has changed, the needs are heavier, and the expectations keep growing, often without the time, staffing, or support services to help. Feeling overwhelmed doesn't mean you're failing. It means that you're paying attention and you care. You're being asked to teach, support mental health, manage behavior shaped by trauma, communicate constantly, and still produce results. Often all at once.
Often, yeah.
That's not small work, and it was never meant to be carried alone. I would additionally share with them that you don't have to be everything for every student. You know, one steady, caring adult is really all it takes. Try to be that person. Progress counts, even when it's invisible. Show up, stay consistent, and offer calm in chaos. That's the impact. It's okay to set boundaries. Caring deeply does not require burning yourself out. You're allowed to ask for help and to say, this is too much. That's professionalism, not weakness. And students don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be human, present, and predictable. The fact that you're still showing up, even tired, is powerful. And finally, you matter. Your work matters, and it's okay to take care of yourself while you take care of kids.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of the time on the internet, I see a lot of teachers feeling unbelievably unsupported by their administrators. So I'm very, very happy to hear that you have the mindset that you have, because being a teacher, I'm not a teacher, but it sounds incredibly hard. They wear probably 30 plus hats every single day. So not having support like that would only make their job harder. So
Completely
that's
agree.
very great
Thank
that
you.
you have the mindset.
It
We
really
have great
is.
humans out in Girard.
Yeah, you definitely do.
So
Yeah.
any future teachers looking for a job, look us up.
Girard is the place to be. Yeah. So what do you think one small thing adults can do that actually makes a difference?
Just one.
Just one.
Pick one.
Oh, I know you have lists. If you have a list, you
Nope.
can go.
I have one.
All right, I'm ready for it.
Listen.
Yeah.
Really listen without rushing to fix it. Give students your full attention when they're expressing their feelings, even if it seems minor or inconvenient. Don't correct them, don't minimize them, and don't give them advice. Just listen and reflect back what you hear. Because if you do that, you teach kids that their emotions are safe and valid. You build trust with those kids, which means they'll be more likely to come to you with a bigger issue.
Yeah.
It helps kids learn to understand and regulate their own feelings over time, and it models calm, respectful communication. You don't have to say the perfect thing. You don't have to solve the problem. But being present and take their feelings seriously is often enough to make the difference.
Yeah. Sometimes they just want to feel heard. Yep.
Yeah. So before we wrap up with David today, I have a couple little fun rapid fire questions for you.
I love rapid fire. Bring it on.
So,
ready.
not too many. NFL or NBA?
NFL.
That is also my choice.
Pittsburgh
Yeah.
Steelers.
Yep.
Woohoo, go Steelers. All right, great.
Yep,
We're all
perfect.
Steeler fans.
I
Too
was
bad
gonna
they
be-
weren't in the Super Bowl this year, but
There was no hope there.
yeah, maybe next year.
I was really hoping you weren't going to say you were a Browns fan.
No.
Yeah, we would have had to edit that
You'll
part
never hear
out.
that.
Yeah, we would have edited that
I
out.
feel bad for my friends who are.
Early mornings or late nights?
Well, that depends. Can it be both?
Yeah.
Work days, early mornings. Days off work, late nights.
Somehow I end up having both every day. I get up early and go to bed late.
That's impressive.
It's not impressive. It's
I am
exhausting.
absolutely a morning guy, though, regardless of day of the week, right? I'm
I
just that
wish.
guy who has the energy without the coffee, without the breakfast, and
Same.
as the day draws on, my energy fades.
Me too.
But I do enjoy my off time, and if I'm able to stay up, maybe we'll binge on a Netflix show. Who knows? We get crazy sometimes.
My
Yeah, I
crazy
remember-
is like bed at 7 p.m. these days.
I remember when Wendy and I first came out, and it was pretty early in the morning, and David was just like, "Hi, what's your name?" He was so peppy, and Wendy and I both looked at each other. We're like, "Wow, like he's really a morning person."
Undiagnosed ADHD. That's what it is.
Well, it's very welcoming.
My
so that's a
teachers
good
used to
thing.
ask me if I drank red Kool-Aid when they weren't looking. No joke. Because somehow red Kool-Aid makes you hyper. I don't know.
Yeah, the red,
Red
dye
dye.
Yeah,
apparently
probably, okay.
does. So stay away
Like I
from the
remember
red
that from
Kool-Aid.
being a child.
And my final rapid fire, meetings or emails?
Oh, meetings. Without question. How do you not justify wanting to meet face-to-face to have a personal connection and conversation as opposed to hiding behind an email?
Yeah. Even when we were talking about doing this, and I said, would you rather have it in the studio or have it virtual? And right away you were like, studio, of course. All right. So last question. So what gives you hope right now when it comes to kids and mental health?
I think many of the things that used to be invisible are now being seen, named, and addressed. A few hopeful signs that really matter. Another list.
I'm ready.
And we've talked about a lot of these throughout this meeting, but kids now have language, right? They're using the words, they understand it, they know they can go to people. Because of the training, because of the education, because of the tools, adults are paying earlier attention. Schools are clearly shifting from punishment to understanding. Mental health is no longer a secret. Resilience is being taught, not assumed. And kids themselves are empathetic. I think this generation of kids, because you always hear the bad things about the screen time and the this and the that. I think this generation is remarkably kind and inclusive and empathetic, and they're just great people.
Yeah.
So I look forward to the future. I think kids are growing up in a world that is finally saying your feelings matter and you're not alone. And that message, consistently reinforced, is powerful. However, as we all know in this room, there are still gaps. Resources are stretched. Adults are tired. But the direction is right. And that's where the hope lives.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I love that.
Caring is cool. Caring about other people is cool. Caring about yourself is cool. Caring about emotions is cool.
And I appreciate both of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for making
you for
mental
joining us,
health
yeah.
such an important
That
priority
too,
with your
especially.
teachers and with yourself and the admin.
Yeah.
You can definitely see the difference just from being out there the times that I've been out there. You can see the difference it makes that they know you care.
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you for that feedback and compliment.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye. Hello, and thank you again for watching this episode of Stigma Stompers.
If you'd like more information about NAMI, you can check us out on our website, NAMIErie.org, and you can also check us out on our socials. Facebook, we have an Instagram, and we also have a LinkedIn.
And while you're on our website, you should go ahead and check out our t-shirt store. We get a portion of all the proceeds. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.